Hello, welcome to the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. I am your host, Roy Kessel, and today we are very excited to have with us a special guest. We have Anna Isaacson from the National Football League, and she is the Senior VP of Social Responsibility and is going to share some of her amazing work that they're doing through the league. So, Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We know there's so much to talk about. The NFL has many great initiatives that they undertake every year, but I want to kind of back up a little bit and talk about Anna as a young girl and how you got your interest in sports and how that developed.
Yeah, sure. I tell people I was never an athlete. I played 1 year of Little League, but I was always a sports fan and watched a lot, particularly baseball, with my family, and really from an early age had an appreciation for the impact that sports have on history and American history specifically, and our culture. And I knew pretty early on in high school that I wanted to work in sports in some capacity. I didn't know what. And so that took me, a couple of different roads and paths in high school and college and beyond, until I really realized that I could merge two passion points of mine, which was sport and using sport to impact people, um, and community service, which I had sort of done separately from sports, growing up in college and beyond. So I didn't realize that was a career that you could actually have until I got into it, and now it is certainly a area CSR in sports that has really blossomed and taken off over the last 10 or 15 years. But um, for me, it was just kind of, I knew I needed to wake up. And if I was going to go to work every day, I was going to have to be doing something that I was passionate about, and that I really liked doing in order to get out of bed. And for me, I knew that was working in sports. I just didn't know exactly where I'd end up.
Well, you mentioned it, right? CSR was not initials or a phrase that people were really aware of much 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And so a lot of people, I think, who are in this space now kind of evolved into it organically because they started doing a little bit of that work from some other part of their lives.
Hmm.
And so when you look back at that, knowing where you are now at the NFL and look back at the career track, for somebody in that role, what can they do at an earlier stage to start going down that path?
Well, excuse me. Um, I think identifying what your passion points are and what you're really interested within the sports field is really important. I think one of the mistakes I made early on, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I sort of threw myself out there and applied for so many different positions and so many different jobs in sport. And I just figured, well, I had good internships, and I'll woo them with my personality and my interest and my passion, and I'll get my foot in the door. And I think I wasn't focused enough, right? I couldn't speak to, I didn't have an elevator pitch on why I wanted to be in sport or what I could accomplish in sport. And when I talk to young people now, if they know early on that they're interested in philanthropy or CSR, or cause marketing, that they should do what they can to work in that area. And now that there's so many more opportunities now than there were, right? When I was sort of graduating from school, it was like, okay, well, what team can I work for? What league can I work for? Is there like a sports radio station? Like, that was it, right? And now, the it's really just such a much wider open field. I mean, you could take courses on this now. You can get a master's degree in it. And so, the opportunities are just, much more fruitful than they were, whether that's working with sponsor companies or agencies or other organizations that are close and proximate to the sport world and to sports and give back. I just tell people, don't, broaden your horizons. Don't lock in on one specific job or one specific role. But if you know what you're passionate about, try to do something that gets you closer to that every step in your journey.
I think that's important because when I was teaching at Northwestern, so many students came up through and they talked about, I want to work in sports. And you would try and literally have to pull out of them like what kind of role. Well, it doesn't matter. I just want to work in sports, and that's not a great incentive for somebody to hire you without understanding what your passion and more importantly what your skill set is in terms of how you can help. So when you look back now in your role, and we want to hear about that, what are the traits that you think have served you the best in this role?
Well, I think for sure passion. I think when we interview people here, I'm always looking for that passion, and it's not that you can't be a fan. Of course, we want you to be a fan, but you can't let your fandom sort of get in the way of the job that you have to do or the business that you're working on, right? So, passion and passion for giving back, passion for contributing to society, you can see it on someone's face. It's either real, it's not real, it's authentic, it's not authentic. We look for people who are ready to roll up their sleeves. This kind of work, is you're out. Sometimes you're behind a computer. Sometimes you're in the field. Sometimes you're working with grassroots organizations. Sometimes you have a little bit of money, but a lot of times you have very little budget, right? And, being able to make something out of nothing or to be scrappy. I have found that most community relations professionals in the sports world are scrappy. They know how to get things done. They know the right people to contact. They don't take no for an answer, and they just push until they kind of get the job done. And I think, while that's not necessarily a hard skill, it's something that comes in very handy in this space. I know that I work for a sports league and our main priority is football, right? And I understand where philanthropy falls in our organization. And my job is to make everybody understand that community work is central to football, is central to the game, is central to us being able to be successful as an organization. And I think having a voice, using your voice, making sure that people see that you're passionate about what you do, and that you're the kind of person that gets things done, right? And I think that's what people are looking for, right? Who can I, when there's a role or there's a job or a project that's open, who can I go to who I know is going to get this done and get it done right? You want to be that person. And I think that's true probably for a lot of areas in the sports business, but in the community world, we're often operating with a small budget, a small staff. We're not the most resourced group. We're a cost center. So how can you, take what you have, build your connections in your network, and really show people what you bring to the table? I mean, a lot of it is based on relationships and being a person who is flexible and collaborative, and appreciative, right? And values the work that other people are contributing. I think all of those things really add value, and that's the kind of person I think we're looking for when we have very few openings, but when we do, that's the kind of person that we're trying to find.
It's interesting because you listed a lot of traits there, right? And I think people oftentimes consider that community work as something that's easy. Like, well, yeah, this is easy, and I'm going to go work for, let's say, the NFL, and they've got deep pockets, so I'll have plenty of money and a huge budget to execute
Yep.
and activate everything that I want to do. And as you said, it's a cost center, so it's a very different mentality than somebody that's generating revenue.
Yeah, and I've had, listen, over my 20 plus years in this space, I've had a lot of phone calls. People said, God, like, I didn't realize your job was so hard, or I didn't realize this is what you had to do as part of your job. I mean, a lot of what we have to do is say no to people and explain why we can't support them, right? Everybody believes that their cause is the most important thing, right? And it is on a certain respect, but being able to, from a business perspective, determine and identify what are the areas that the league should be focused on, what is both helpful to our communities, helpful to our business, helpful to our fan base, that it isn't so easy, right? It's much easier being able to say, oh yeah, sure, I'll support that, or we'll give money to that, we'll give money to that. That's just not, it's not reality though. And so being able to be, having the ability to say no gently and kindly and with respect, is a skill that I think often goes unrecognized, but it is a really important skill for someone working in this space to be able to acknowledge and hear someone's concern or issues and say, okay, here's how I think we can assist you, or we can't right now, and here's why, and do that with respect and dignity. That's something we push really hard at the NFL.
That's such an important trait when you talk about that because, as you said, everybody believes their cause is the most important one that's out there. That's why they are working in that space generally,
Mhm.
right? And the challenge is they're all extremely important, but no matter how much money you have, whether it's $100,000, $100 million, or $1 billion, right? At some point, that number is limited, and you can't give money to every cause that's out there, and you're tasked with that responsibility of identifying, okay, here's the pot, here's the budget for this year, how can I make the most impact with this finite number of dollars? And I'd love to hear you sort of talk through, because that's a question we get a lot, is what's the best way to approach an organization like the NFL in terms of looking for support or going through the process of identifying how somebody could partner with you.
I mean, I think it's showing an understanding of our business and understanding of the areas where we're spending our resources, and if you're going to approach us for a donation or a partnership, to understand where you may fall in the NFL ecosystem, right? So, it's pretty easy at this point because of technology and social media, and to find out what we're focused on, right? What are we spending our time on, our money, our dollars? What causes are we really championing? I think that's if you're going to reach out to the NFL, it's better if you are saying, well, I've done my homework, I've done the research, I know you're invested in this area. Here's why I think our organization, our nonprofit, our issue really is in line with things that you are working on. And I think you'd want to understand what we're working on because we're really making a difference in such and such community. I think what is harder is if people approach without a real understanding of the work that's already being done, and an expectation that we're going to be able to do something that we may just not be able to do, and you know asking for things that at the start of a relationship without building that relationship first, right? I think we pride ourselves really at not being just like a check cutting organization. While we do make a lot of donations and we buy a lot of tables for various events for our cause areas and our partnerships, we're really not a check cutting organization that kind of gives money and then says see you later. We try to build real partnership and real relationships, and that takes time and resources, and trust building. And so, understanding that sometimes we start small, or we start with something low hanging fruit or something easy that we can do with an organization to get to know each other, and then kind of come in and make a bigger ask, right? But it's hard, just because you think we're the NFL and we must have, endless resources, or, that we can just say yes to everything. It doesn't, in reality, it doesn't work that way.
Well, and we see that a lot where people will come and look at the organization like the NFL and say, well, you don't need to give me a check, right? I just need 4 Super Bowl tickets, right? Or I need access for something like that.
Or a
And
commercial in the Super Bowl. Just give me 30 seconds.
right, because you control all of that media and that $2 million per minute price tag that
7
they get.
million, 2 million.
Well, 30 seconds in the pregame show. The prices obviously are there, and I think, as you said, it's understanding the nature of the business and where you're making that impact. So let's talk a little bit about some of the initiatives now that are on the the spotlight for the NFL as we had going through the season and over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think social justice is a huge one, obviously, for us. We've been really invested in social justice now for more than 5 years. And our Inspire Change campaign is something that we focus on year round. It's something that It involves really just about every department in our organization, and it's multifaceted. Um, it comes to life at a specific time of the season, and that's week 15 and 16. So we're working to figure out kind of how that will come to life this year, but it's really an always on campaign for us. So most of our big causes, we have sort of a window in time in the season where we are totally focused, and clubs and players are really invested. So we just got out of our crucial catch cancer prevention timeframe, and we're sort of heading into our salute to service military appreciation window. And then after that, we'll have My Cause, My Cleats. And then our last one for the season is really Inspire Change, which is focused on 4 pillars under the social justice kind of definition, right? And that is education, economic advancement, community relations and police, and criminal justice reform. So we've got a lot of initiatives on the hopper. We just released our first social justice impact report that really highlights a lot of the work that our 30 plus national grant partners are doing. And we will also be awarding Changemaker Awards to 32 individuals in the club markets who are really working on the ground in their communities on social justice issues that are relevant to our club markets. So we've got a lot going on there. October is probably, I don't know, it's certainly one of our biggest and most busy months. We just got out of a big owners meeting the other day, and besides Crucial Catch, October is a domestic violence awareness month, and so we've got programming in the works for that. Today is actually Spirit Day, that we are participating in partnership with GLAD to support LGBTQ youth. And so, October is sort of jam-packed with different causes, and I think we use our shield and our umbrella to raise up things that we care about. And so that's kind of what's on the hopper right now. So it's a lot. And this is our busy time of year, so I guess it should be a lot.
Well, and you talk about everything that you're touching and going through. Talk a little bit about the size of your group, because you're pulling from so many things, and you've got all of these tentacles and initiatives that are going on. That takes a big team to execute all of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably honestly one of the smallest teams at the league, but we're about 10 to 12 people strong, and that covers the NFL Foundation and the work we do there. It covers our social responsibility efforts, and it covers our NFL auction platform, which is an auction site where everything that's sold, 100% of the proceeds go to charitable organizations that we support. So a lot of leagues have auction sites, but most of them are for profit in some capacity. Ours is really charitable in nature, so it lives in our realm. And so our staff is spread pretty thin. We have 47 grant programs at the NFL Foundation supporting nonprofits and players, former players, youth football, and all sorts of things. And so we are, each one of us, it might be a small team, but we are each responsible for several initiatives and making sure that we work across the organization to pull those things off, right? Our marketing team, is critical, for example, to our success, our PR team, our social media team, to making sure that we have buy-in from across the organization so that the campaigns that we own are actually making an impact in the universe, right? People are actually seeing them, they're hearing about it, they're learning about it, they can engage with our initiatives. Our job is to create the initiatives, to focus the messaging, to partner with nonprofit organizations and help support them in many ways, and then educate our staff and our employees around the building for how they can get involved and they can support these causes through their own jobs. So that's it's a small but mighty team, but we're really reliant on probably hundreds of people from around the organization to make these campaigns come to life.
Oh, it's a very robust thing. You talk about 47 grant programs in all kinds of areas. What is there a typical application window, or do each of the grant programs that you support have different windows?
There's different windows, right? Some of them are more focused in season, and some are actually more focused out of season. So, for example, we offer a program to NFL players and legends where we help support football camps, non-contact football camps for young people that they're running. And those are obviously taking place after the season, right? And so the grant application process is sort of happening in the postseason, and then we're awarding grants, and players are executing those camps in the spring and the early summer before they come back to training camp. So that's just one example. But then there are other programs where clubs need to take advantage of grants for programs that they're executing during the regular season, right? We offer our club's incentive to take part in our programs by applying for grants from us, so they can apply for money to do salute service projects or crucial catch initiatives or inspire change. And those are usually executed during the season. And then we have, a really big relationship with USA Football, the governing body of youth and high school football. And that's a multi-year relationship. And they're executing programming all, 365 days a year.
So occasionally you get to sleep. Well, what does Anna like to do with her time when you're not in the office?
It's work-life balance is an ongoing challenge. I'm not going to lie. It's not something I've mastered fully. These days, I try to spend as much time with my kids as possible. So, that's not always easy, but it definitely puts things into perspective. So between work and family, unfortunately, there isn't much time for other stuff.
So I know in our prior conversations, you've talked about some of the, we'll call it behind the scenes type of work and research that you're doing with your team. Would love to have you share some of that, because I think it's really easy to see um, on TV, right, as people are watching games and see the inspired change and crucial catch, salute to service, my cause, my cleats, right? Those things are front and center and visible. But I know that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's, one thing that's really big in our industry right now is measuring your impact, right? And figuring out how you can tell a story about the work that you're doing, right? And it's not just about marketing and PR, but really, how are you moving the needle? And so we've got a few projects that we're working on to try to really help us capture that impact. One of the things, and it's may seem obvious, but we have really generous clubs and really generous owners in this league, and they give tremendously to all different causes every year. Players, legends as well. NFL family giving is really just unbelievable, to be honest. And I don't think over the years we've done a good enough job showing and highlighting that. And I think part of our work recently is to make sure that people understand that the NFL is a caring organization, that we give back, that this is sort of core to who we are. And I'd love to be able to show that in other ways besides dollars and money. And we try to do that where we can. But sometimes we just also have to show the dollars. So we spend a lot of time tracking donations across the NFL family, right? We've been able to do some research that shows that the NFL family on an annual basis contributes more than $500 million a year to charitable organizations. And that's no small number, right? And when we drill down deeper into that, we're truly trying to shine a light on, okay, well, where is that money going? What is it supporting? How is it lifting up our communities? Because our fans are the ones that are giving to us and supporting us and are sustaining the league. And we want to be able to show that we're giving back to them, right? Because we would be not able to have a National Football League without our fans. And so making sure that our fans and people are aware that there's significant investment being put back into community. I think we're always looking for ways where we can capture that data, capture those numbers, and then hopefully get beyond the dollar amounts, right? And start to storytell and really see how those dollars are making an impact. So I would say we're on the hunt for the best way to measure impact and the best way to storytell around what we're doing. We've tried a couple of different things, and I think it's going to be an area for a focus for us, near term probably, and long term, until we really sort of solve that piece.
This is Roy Kessel on the Sports Philanthropy Podcast with Anna Isaacson from the NFL. So Anna, if people want more information to learn about these initiatives, where should they go and look for more specifics?
Yeah, so the best place is NFL.com/community. That really houses all of our campaigns. It houses our annual reports. We do a social responsibility annual report that we make available to the public every year. So those are on that site. And from that site, you can really link out to each one of our campaigns. So we've got a separate site for Inspire Change and one for Crucial Catch and Salute to Service. So people, if they're interested, can really dive into what we're funding, what we're doing, how the campaigns are coming to life. That's really the best way. I mean, we hope you're watching football, and when you're watching games, you see the PSAs and the commercials and the tickers on the bottom and how we um, infuse our community work throughout the game at different points of the year. But if you're really interested in diving in for more, NFL.com/community is probably the easiest and simplest place to go.
So as you look ahead, I know you said this is a really hectic time of year, as you get everything ready for the balance of time going on. But I know things come up pretty quickly, and as soon as the season's over and you head into playoffs, there's a lot of planning that goes on for events like the Super Bowl, the Combine, the NFL Draft. Right, it's a never-ending calendar for NFL events. Um, Talk a little bit about that process of how you identify what type of events and programs and activations you select during those mega events.
I mean, at those times, especially Super Bowl, we're really looking to shine a light on our key causes, right? So we'll schedule a week of events that puts a spotlight on our focus areas, whether that's social justice or military, cancer, getting kids active and healthy. That's what we're looking to do. We also work locally with local organizations, with the club that's hosting, with the host committee in the case of the Super Bowl or the draft, and find out what issues are really relevant to a local community and make sure we're tapping into that, um, into what concerns people the most. We start pretty far out, and so we're certainly deep in on Super Bowl planning and already starting on draft planning for next year. Um, there's never enough time in the day, but you've got to get ahead of these things, and we have a pretty robust calendar of community events that we like to bring to life. And so, you know, while we're putting on our calendar of initiatives, whether whatever window we're in the NFL season, in the background we're also planning for Super Bowl and Pro Bowl and the draft, and um, thinking about how we can take our events and bring them to life in a club market usually. So that's kind of how we think about it. It's really about utilizing our tentpole events to shine an extra spotlight on things that the league is championing.
Well, and it's amazing when you talk about everything that you're doing with relatively small staff of 10 to 12 people. It's an enormous undertaking because each one of the initiatives that you talk about, from Crucial Catch or Salute to Service or Inspire Change, each one of those could have 10 or 12 people working on that full time and nothing else. So I want to congratulate you on all the great work you're doing. We look forward to following the continued success and the voice and the power that the NFL brings to it. I think one thing that's really important is, as you said, shining a spotlight on those issues on an ongoing basis, because you have a platform of um, 16 or so games every week that can be used for that messaging and coverage and all kinds of platforms. So love seeing that. Keep up the great work, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Roy. It's been great. Appreciate you having me on.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking time to join us on the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, signing off. Please remember to live generously. Thank you.